Today, I'd like to start with a story. The streets are lined with thousands of people clapping and cheering. The air is warm and a gentle breeze helps evaporate the sweat running down the side of my head. My right foot is sore and I can feel my energy levels dropping. I'm thinking, I haven't eaten enough to keep this pace going. Before I started this race, my goal was to run the whole thing consistently. To be honest, at this point I've lost track of how long the race is and I'm not sure how much further I have to go. I'm starting to get flashbacks to my secondary school PE class. I'm running the cross country. I say running, it's more of a slow shuffle. This was my first experience of running for more than a few minutes. I'd estimate within our class of 30, I'm probably one of the slowest by far. Personally, I'd much rather be sat in a classroom solving maths problems. Speaking of maths, I've just passed kilometre marker 16. Isn't the race something like 21 kilometres long? That means I've got, what's 21 minus 16? Come on Rob, that's easy, I pant. But in my exhausted state, even the most simple of calculations eludes me. However far it is, I'm struggling now. I look around to try and distract myself. We are running around Roath Lake. The water looks cool and inviting. A few ducks bob gently on the surface, wondering what all the commotion is about. I wouldn't mind joining them for a few moments, just to rest my legs. Head in the game, Rob, come on, keep pushing. Maybe try finding some food. I realised not long into the race that the 2 gels I brought were far from sufficient. Thankfully, many of the supporters lining the streets have decided to bring packs of jelly babies and hold them out for flagging runners like myself to gorge on. Initially, I was reluctant to take sweets from strangers, but it didn't take long for that concern to disappear. I've also noticed a surprising amount of people holding out boxes of pizza too. I'm not an expert on race nutrition, but I'm fairly sure even in my starved state that pizza probably isn't a good idea. Somehow I managed to settle into a rhythm fueled by jelly babies and the final few kilometres tick by. The end is in sight. After one last push up the final incline, I passed the finish line in 2 hours and 8 minutes. I've just finished my first half marathon. This is the furthest I've ever run in my life and I feel elated. That Rob from secondary school would never have dreamed of doing something like this. I think about the journey I've taken to get here. This all started with the Hereford Duathlon I completed on my 30th birthday. That was when I finally understood the appeal of these kinds of events. Better late than never, hey? I'd started to enjoy running and cycling before then, but had never entertained the idea of entering an event. After this, it didn't take long for me to sign up for my next event, a sprint triathlon. Over the next year, I took part in 4 more triathlons in Leicester, Buryport, Carmarthen and Penarth. This all culminated in the Gower Olympic Triathlon just 2 months before the start of my half. One of my proudest achievements to date. Following all of these events, my fitness was the best it had ever been in my life coming into this half marathon. I did need to transition my focus from triathlon to running, so I dropped any of the swim and bike workouts for the next couple of months. I slowly increased my running distance and was confident I was on track for a sub 2 hour half marathon when the day came around. And then, about 2 weeks before the race was due to start, I developed a foot injury. I took it easy for a couple of days and then went out for a gentle run. Just a few minutes into the run, my foot was aggressively complaining. I quickly realised I needed more rest. This wasn't something that was going to resolve itself in just a few days. This meant for 2 weeks preceding the half, I did no running. I rested up completely, prioritising my foot over any final gains in fitness. A few days before the race, I managed to get out for a gentle run. My foot still wasn't perfect, but at least I could run on it. However, I could certainly feel a noticeable reduction in my fitness. Resting up for all this time had robbed me of some of my performance, but I thought better to finish the race a little slower than to have to drop out because of an injury. On the morning of the race, I joined thousands of other participants in front of Cardiff Museum and could feel the nervous energy in the crowds. This being my first half marathon, I found a place at the back of the yellow pin, which it turns out was essentially right at the back of the marathon. This meant I was starting behind people who were expecting to run a slower race than me. As I crossed the starting line, I quickly realised I was going to have to navigate through thick crowds of runners going much slower than me. Had I started further forward, I felt confident I could have easily shaved a good few minutes off my time from all of the navigating I had to do over the first quarter of the race. It probably wouldn't have got me under 2 hours, but it would have been close. Very close. Since crossing that finish line over 2 years ago, that question has remained in my mind. Could I do it in less than 2 hours? If I get everything right, the training, the nutrition, and the race day logistics, could I do it? And so, last week I decided to answer that question. I bought my ticket for the 2022 October Cardiff Half Marathon. So here's my plan. There will be no triathlon this year, my focus will be solely on running. To help minimise the chance of any injuries, this week I visited my local Run and Become shop where I received a professional gait analysis and got to try on a range of shoes to find my ideal fit. I received an amazing service and came away with a pair of Brooks Glycerin GTX. These honestly feel like they were made for my feet, and I'm excited to put some serious miles on them. I'm also going to do my research on race nutrition. I want to make sure I'm optimally fueled during my workouts and on race day. As a way to keep me accountable, I'm going to produce a weekly YouTube Shorts video where I'll share my learning and how my training is going. I've already taken one deep dive into the world of endurance nutrition, as this was the topic I chose for my dietetic dissertation. If this is something you'd like to check out, I can link to it from my website, and I'll put the link in the description. I also thought it was high time I put my athletic endeavours to better use by raising money for charity. Last year, I came across the concept of effective altruism. Experts estimate that the best charities are often 10 to 100 times more effective than a typical one. Given that the purpose of a charity is to help others, we need to make sure we support the ones that help the most, because ultimately, lives are on the line. As someone who spends a lot of time researching and talking to people about food and health, animal welfare is a topic close to my heart. Therefore, for my half marathon entry this year, I'm going to support the Humane League. They exist to end the abuse of animals raised for food by influencing the policies of the world's biggest companies, demanding legislation and empowering others to take action and leave animals off their plates where they can. If you'd like to help me support this charity, please consider donating using the Just Giving link in this video's description. It would mean the world to me. If you'd also like to follow my training journey, you can find me on Strava and Nike Run Club. Please feel free to send some kudos my way and I'll be sure to do the same. Anyway, that's it from me. I'll see you in the next video.